Hello, I'm NP. This one will be a little bit shorter than my first EA WRC review. A lot of you guys watched it, liked it and commented on it, so I really appreciate that. Considering this rally sim, a couple of things changed since that video. So the most important thing that changed, and a couple of months ago it prevented me from enjoying EA WRC. The force feedback didn't work. Well, it worked kind of, but it didn't give enough actual feedback about what was happening between the road and the car. I received an ample of great suggestions in the comment section of the previous video, but honestly, none of them worked. The game and my rig didn't communicate well, so none of the settings changed that. As a result, the car did a lot of unpredictable and strange reactions. So finally, I just abandoned this game somewhere around April 2024. So a couple of months passed. Considering sim racing, I sort of rediscovered Sebastian Loeb Rally Evil. Also after watching GamerMuscleVideos, a great channel about sim racing, by the way. So inspired by his videos, I dusted off AC again and I had quite a blast. Besides that, I also started to test different bike sims. Despite that, there are some pretty good ones out there, this genre is sort of neglected. So for months I didn't touch EA SPORTS WRC. During the time it received a couple of updates, including a most controversial kernel-level cheat protection. So that's where the introduction of this video ends. So the big question is, could these updates improve my situation? Absolutely yes. Now it works just like other rally sims. Honestly, I didn't even touch my settings. Still, the game started to provide a pretty detailed force feedback. The same way functional just like in WRC 10 for example or DiRT Rally 2.0, my most favorite rally sim ever. So it's not worse, not better, just different as it should be. But it's great and absolutely top tier. Before getting any wrong idea about my video, this is not a sponsored one. Okay, so this is my honest opinion. So by August 2024, EA Sports WRC got into the shape where I can start to discover it. That's all about it. So the second thing is the lack of VR support. Well, they have implemented it somewhere around April this year, maybe. So if racing in VR is your thing, then you can do it in EA Sports WRC. Okay, the next thing, I think the graphics are still inferior to DiRT Rally 2.0, despite the fact that the maps are much more detailed in EA Sports WRC. To me the color scheme still feels like as if it was recorded using a cheap mobile phone. Functional, but too flat. But considering fluency, I think there's quite a bit of difference between March and August. Much more consistent FPS with much less frame drops, and I've been using the same machine for a long time. So if the hardware is the same but the game improved, then it's a result of development. Sometimes it doesn't happen, but the majority of developers today, they have a very long patching and improvement plan. As far as I can see, most of them care about their games after the release. In the comment section of the previous video, there was a guy who called me an asshole because of my opinion about it. Well, everything I say is a subjective opinion, so you don't have to agree with me. You know, I believe that instead of complaining and negativity, it's much more useful to send a bug report to the developer. Also, it's a good strategy to start the game a little bit later than its release. Maybe 6 months, 1 year, something like that. By that time, maybe you can find it on a discount and the game receives a lot of patches and fixes. As I've said, as long as game developers don't abandon their big, ambitious projects, then I'm fine with that. I won't go anywhere. Of course, there are bad examples, but there are so many good ones. Do you remember the very first edition of Witcher 3? It was a mess. Then, over time, it became one of the greatest action RPGs, just like ever. As for CD Projekt Red, the very same thing happened to Cyberpunk 2077. Or a recent example, No Man's Sky received a complete engine overhaul a couple of weeks ago. It's absolutely mind-blowing. All in all, I think it's better to be a little bit more patient and positive about it than ranting and killing your own fun. So finally, this game became fixed for me. It works like the other rally sims. So from this point, it's enjoyable. Anyway, there is one thing that I must mention when I talk about EA SPORTS WRC. Along with all these patches that fixed the game for me, arrived a kernel-level anti-cheat protection called EA Anti-Cheat. There are two major problems with it. Number one, since its introduction, the game stopped working on Steam Deck and Linux. EA said that Linux-based systems were not supported in the first place, so the game was never claimed to be Steam Deck compatible. It worked there for almost a year. Although technically it's a clean situation from EA's point of view, still it was a very bad move, I think, cutting off a lot of players from this game who could play it before. So even if you are fair, but you are ignorant, it's the same way damaging, I think. Thing 2. Kernel-level modifications can make your operation system unsecure and unstable. Look, I'm not an operation system specialist, so I thought it would be a good idea to ask someone who is, a friend of mine. He said it's most probably safe to use on a gaming machine, but I shouldn't install EA SPORTS WRC on my workstation or on a computer that includes some confidential data, like development plans, company stuff, things like that. Well, although it sounds harmless, I think it doesn't, coming from a specialist. So the other thing, system stability. I must be honest with you, so I tell what happened. Because of simplicity, instead of cables, I use a Wi-Fi connection to get online. Although it's very stable, sometimes there is a signal drop occasionally. It loses it for a couple of seconds, then automatically reconnects. I just don't notice. So what happened? I played EA Sports WRC and my Wi-Fi connection dropped. This time my machine, for some reason I don't know, didn't reconnect. What happened? The game didn't crash. It let me finish my session. I played career mode maybe 3 races. Then when I quit the game, Windows crashed. Although it sometimes happens, but it's very rare, for me at least. When it comes to gaming, there was quite a big development, I think. Windows 95 was like crashing a couple of times per day. Windows 7 once a week. And Windows 10 once a month. Still, this one wasn't a typical crash because Windows slowed quite much afterwards. When I opened Text Manager, it said my system runs system interrupts and it eats 50% of the power. Luckily for me, the very next day arrived a Windows update that seemed to fix it. Maybe this issue has nothing to do with EA Sports WRC kernel-level cheat protection, I don't know. But this is what happened. Maybe just a strange coincidence, I don't know. Anyway, some conclusion at the end. The force feedback issue that prevented me from enjoying EA Sports WRC seemed to be fixed through many patches. Now, as of August of 2024, it's just as much fun as all the others I like. Also, the updates brought an anti-cheat system that caused problems. In the first place, I cannot play it on my Steam Deck anymore. And the second, it may introduce some potential stability and security issues. So despite the game is very good to play, still my smile is not complete. But I must also add for a full picture that I completely support the idea of having some powerful anti-cheat system on board. Quoting the Slipknot song, people equals shit. The world is full of cheating, stealing, backstabbing, scamming assholes. They must be controlled for a better world. That's it. But in the case of this game, was it the best way to do it? I'm not sure. NP out. See you somewhere in time.